प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद की, श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंज राधा कुंज गिरि गोवर्धन की, श्री वृंदावन धाम की, मायपुर नवद्वीप धाम की, गंगा माई की, यमुना माई की, भक्ति देवी की, श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी की, समवेत भक्तवृंद की, जय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
All glories to Srila Guru.
Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunda Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Thank you. Thank you, Nithirosa, Anna and Anna. So apologies for my slipping. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I'm going to be reading from chapter 4, verse 22 from the Bhagavad Gita. Has everyone got it? 420? Have you got it? Can you hear it? Okay. Yadricha labha santushto dvandvatito vimatsaraha samaha siddhav asiddhocha kritvapi na nibadyati. Thank you. If you repeat word after word. Yadricha, out of its own accord. Labha, with gain. Santushtaha, satisfied. Dvandva, duality. Atitaha, surpassed. Vimatsara, free from envy. Samaha, steady. Siddho, in success. Asiddho, failure. Cha, also. Kritva, doing. Api, although. Na, never. Nibadyate, becomes affected. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: He who is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. Purport: A Krishna-conscious person does not make much endeavor even to maintain his body. He is satisfied with gains which are obtained of their own accord. He neither begs nor borrows, but he labors honestly as far as is in his power, and is satisfied with whatever is obtained by his own honest labor. He is therefore independent in his livelihood. He does not allow anyone's service to hamper his own service in Krishna consciousness. However, for the service of the Lord, he can participate in any kind of action without being disturbed by the duality of the material world. The duality of the material world is felt in terms of heat and cold, or misery and happiness. A Krishna-conscious person is above duality because he does not hesitate to act in a way for the satisfaction of Krishna. Therefore, he is steady both in its success and in failure. These signs are visible when one is fully in transcendental knowledge. I just want to move this because it's like right in my face. I can't see the screen. Okay. So thank you everyone for this opportunity to speak on the Bhagavad Gita. I'm not qualified at all, especially after hearing this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class about how these classes should be conducted. But hopefully with all your mercy and blessings I can speak something nice about Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Minitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tatati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragutanvitam Tam Sajivam Savadait Advaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Godhangi Radhe Rindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sudhe Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakarpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Bhavaneva Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shiva Daitya Gadadara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you, dear devotees. So I think we mentioned last time when I was giving the class the name of the chapter. Does anyone remember? Transcendental Knowledge, yeah, chapter 4. And does anyone know where in the Bhakti sandwich we are? You know, the Bhakti, they call the Gita the Bhakti sandwich. It's split into 3 sections. So, yeah, no, karma. Yeah, so the first 6 chapters about karma yoga, and yeah, we should. And then the next 7 to 12 is about bhakti yoga, and then 13 to 18 is jnana yoga. And the other day in our class, you gave a really good analogy that actually the Gita is like a treasure chest with the upper and lower coverings. So this is karma and jnana, and then inside we have the treasure of bhakti, which reveals the heart of Krishna. But in the 2 verses, 1865 and 66, are the jewels on the outer covering. How beautiful is that? So I think I mentioned last time that the connection between chapter 3 and chapter 4. So chapter 3 was about karma yoga, and you need the knowledge in order to surrender all your work. So chapter 4 now emphasizes this transcendental knowledge. And so far in chapter 4, so from verse 1 to 10, Krishna's talking about the transcendental knowledge, and he mentions that he's already given this knowledge to the sun god and the disciplic succession. And then he moves on to talking about applying the transcendental knowledge. That's verses 11 to 15. And then now, in 16 to 24, we're talking about understanding karma on the platform of jnana. So does anyone remember the 3 types of action? Yeah. Steve, you want to say it in the microphone so people online can hear you next time? So yeah, you're right. Karma, akarma, and vikarma. So this verse is about someone who's at the stage of karma yoga, because we're in that section of the Gita. We're not in the bhakti yoga section yet. So we're talking about someone working at karma with no reaction. So I hope that gives you a bit of context. And in chapter 3, Arjuna asked a question about lust. So Krishna is now answering this question. Then he comes back to discussing karma yoga later in the chapter, if you remember. So I'm going to break the verse. Upon first time reading the verse, something that stood out to me was the envy part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the verse into around 4 parts and mainly talk about that topic. I mean, Prabhupada in the purport, he doesn't talk a lot about envy, but I think that is the root to also the issue why we can't do the other things that is discussed in the verse. So the first part, he who is satisfied with gain that comes of his own accord, yad richa, out of its own accord, labha, with gain, santudishtaha, satisfied. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, just to repeat it, so I think today in the morning class, you remember what she said, it's really important that we analyze the purport of Prabhupada and we understand it. It's not just about, just reading the Gita and, like she said, memorizing, which we've been doing for Bhakti Shastri, but that we go deep into it and understand and apply it. So Prabhupada says in the purport, a Krishna conscious person does not make much endeavor even to maintain his body. He is satisfied with gains which are obtained of their own accord. He neither begs nor borrows, but he labors honestly as far as is in his power, and is satisfied with whatever is obtained by his own honest labor. He is therefore independent in his livelihood. So when I was reading that, the thing that stood out to me was in his power. So because we all have our own karma, and I think what happens is we all over endeavor a lot. So this purport to me also, it meant that like he's not over endeavoring, he's just, the person is only interested in performing the action and he's happy with whatever comes of the action. But how much of us are actually like that, you know? We want that promotion, you know, someone gives us some Mahaprasad, we want some more Mahaprasad. We're not Anna, no, I'm joking. I was going to say Anna especially. I'm joking. So that's just one of the things I was thinking. And Prabhupada, on a lecture about 4.22 that I was listening to, he gave the analogy that just like so long you're a cashier in a bank, I'm supposed to deal with millions of dollars, but this is not my money. In this consciousness, this is Krishna consciousness, to understand everything belongs to Krishna. If one acts in that way with everything, you know, this is, and of course one of my favorite verses from Shri Ishopanishad, the first verse, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam, what was it? Tena Yat Kincha Jagadyam Jagat Tena Taktena Bunjita, is it Magrida Kashyasviddanam? So this Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam principle, again, you know, we know the translation, everything iname or inanimate within the universe is owned and controlled by the Lord. One should not therefore accept things which are not necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota. And one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So again, this principle we discuss a lot. Again, it relates to satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord. And we were discussing last week with Mother Vishaka, weren't we, about this towards the end. We were talking about how do we know what our quota is. So does anyone have any thoughts on like how do we know what our quota is? Do you want to take the microphone? Sorry. Just so people online can hear you. My mum's watching. I think you talk. Is it working? Am I? Okay, so, yeah. Okay, it's fine. Go on. Yeah. So the Prabhu said the quota is what we're happy and satisfied with. Yeah. So that's what we were discussing. Mother Vishaka was saying that we should come to the platform in the mode of goodness, so we become more satisfied and we understand, you know, with that knowledge that we're gaining in the mode of goodness, and we understand that we don't need to unnecessarily over-endeavor. And it's also within Nectar of Instruction, verse 2. Anna? I'm joking. We've got a test on it this week. We need to learn it. Atyahara prayashascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangashta loyam cha shadbir bhakti vinashati. So again, the prayashas, so over-endeavoring. So again, it's mentioning another literature that our devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in engaging in the following 6 activities. So one of them, the second one, is over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. So we're seeing in many different texts, Upanishad, Nectar of Instruction, that we should not over-endeavor. We should be satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord. And he also makes another really good point, Prabhupada, in the lecture about this verse, 4.22. He says, not that everyone will make the same profit. In the material world, everyone is working. Someone is getting per hour thousands of rupees, and somebody is getting even more, or even a morsel of food, but still one has to be satisfied. Because one is getting thousands of rupees, I should also get it? No. Then you will never be happy. You be happy with what you are gaining, because everyone is making profit and losing according to his past karma. So again, he's, you know how he puts everything in nice analogies and he compares it. It brings it to life, isn't it? We see people in society, we're like, oh, they're getting it, so why can't I? And I think as a devotees, we need to understand that, you know, we have our karma, and Krishna chooses everyone to be instruments in different ways. It's a verse, I think it's in chapter 13. I can't remember the verse. But everything in this world as well is temporary. So we should remember our goal is not even in this world. So I just want to move on to the second part of the verse. So who is free from duality? So what does it mean to be in duality? Does anyone, Anna? Yeah. So Anna said to be affected by the miseries and happiness. So true. So he says in the purport, however, for the service of the Lord, he can participate in any kind of action without being disturbed by the duality of the material world. The duality of the material world is felt in terms of heat and cold, or misery and happiness. So you were just saying that. And Krishna mentions this in so many points in the Gita. So 2.14, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress. He mentions again in 2.15, the person who's not disturbed by happiness and distress. So it's quite prevalent, and it's a very good quality to have. So also in the purport, he says a Krishna conscious person is above duality because he does not hesitate to act in the way for the satisfaction of Krishna. So just to give a scriptural example, so Jay and Vijay, they had two options, didn't they? So either they should take 7 lives as a birth as a great devotees, and become famous as great preachers, I think it was, or take 3 lives as demons and come back to me by being killed by me. So they're Hiranyakashipu and Hiranya, isn't it? Okay, I hope so. I hope that was right. But sorry and forgive me for any mistakes. So they chose the latter because they wanted to go back to the Lord quicker. They didn't mind that they were coming as demons. So on that point, so I was personally reflecting on the first 2 points. So satisfied with gain and free from duality. And definitely if I reflect on my life or what I've been doing, I've been endeavoring very hard. You go to university, you get a job. I feel like after working for 6 years and then being here, I'm like, I have endeavored too hard. And I feel the material world is always about that endeavor and getting ahead of people. And even on Monday, I was facilitating Prabhupada's class. And again, was I free from duality and free from the happy? No. And afterwards I was like, oh, that was so bad. So I think we have to make conscious efforts to live in this way, and also it's about letting go of the results. So today, before I came up here, I was like, it doesn't matter if I give a good talk, I just want to do my best for all of you, and I hope I can serve you all in some way. It's not about being the best lecturer or, anything. Whatever little I can do, I hope that it's good enough for all of you. So the example in Shastra, in Surrender Unto Me, he gives example of Mahendra is his name? Madhavendrapuri. Yeah, sorry. The example of him. So he's a pure devotee of the Lord, and he never worked or begged for food. Here only when someone was prompted by Krishna from within to offer him food. So Krishna came himself to bring him milk. And it's a really nice example. Obviously we shouldn't imitate, we should not stop eating. But it's just a nice example to see pure devotee. I think Shastra is always a good place to go back to bring the verses alive. So I feel these 2 first points tie with envy, because we often see others and we compare ourselves. We're not free from that duality. And we see others as a sense of competition. So this leads to the next part in the verse. So then I separated and free from envy, vimatsadaha. And how many of us here have felt envy in our lives? Yeah, so everyone. No? You haven't, you're amazing. Pure devotee, demigod. So we all have felt it, and it's so prevalent in society. And I was reading an article which said that we are in the age of envy. In the age of social media, we go on and what do we see? Everyone seems ecstatic, apart from us, because we forget when we go on social media, oh, this person's on holiday, oh, this person's living at the manor, I wish I was there. I felt that when I wasn't here. And it starts a lot from childhood as well, doesn't it? When we think about it, we're told we need to get better grades. We grow up in this competition. Advertising these days is on this envy. Does anyone know? because when I was looking into envy, I also want to clarify the difference between jealousy and envy. Does anyone know the difference? Mm. Yeah. Yeah, so you got that right. So jealousy is like you already possess something, but you're like threatened by another person, and envy is a reaction to like the lack of something. So that's good. I thought for me it was like important to clear that up because everyone uses the words interchangeably, but they're different. So again, in this lecture, Prabhupada says, this man is a millionaire, so I must become a millionaire. Competition, that is material disease. Now there is competition between the capitalists and the communists. Now the communist or the labourer class men are thinking, why the capitalists should gain, we should gain. The industry is being conducted by us. The profits shall be divided by us. Why to the capitalists? And Prabhupada says, so this is not the solution. That is from frying pan to the fire. Such a good example. Either the world is run on the principle of communist philosophy or capitalist philosophy. It will never be happy. So here is the formula, that everyone should be satisfied with the profit that he can make easily. That's all. Yadricha labha, so the first two words of the verse. So I thought that was really nice. Again, a nice example. And this concept of envy, which I didn't realize was such a big topic, is really analysed in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 3rd canto's 29th chapter by Lord Kapila Dev. He's explaining to his mother, Devduti, that because of this envy, even our devotional service, at the beginning, even if we start with good intentions, it doesn't have powerful effects because of this envy. It's actually a really good lecture about Bhaktivedanta. I don't know if you've seen it. He gave the lecture here. It really blew my mind watching that. So I'm just going to briefly, I'm not going to go into detail of all the philosophy because I'm not an expert on Srimad Bhagavatam, but just cover so we can realize in ourselves when we're feeling these things, because we really have to root out the envy in order to progress in Krishna consciousness. Because I'll cover the reason afterwards. So stage 1 is of jnana. So I'm better than him, to look at someone from like above, like we're better, and we want to perform our devotional service as like a show, like I'm chanting better than this person, or I'm chanting louder or quieter. So we should be really conscious about how we perform our devotional service in front of people and when we're alone. The second stage, upkesha, so I can't stand him. You want to avoid somebody completely, and it's when the envy becomes very strong in the heart. Sorry, thank you. Thank you. So if you see him, you turn away from him. For example, if I see a person in the kitchen and I really, I can't stand her, so I'm running away from her. And this envy, so the second stage, it's like a disease. So it progresses, and we have to catch it in these first 2 stages, because once it goes to the 3rd stage of the Visha, I hate him. By this attitude, we actually gain a separatist attitude. Someone is suffering and you don't feel compassion for them. You actually feel happy that they're suffering. This kind of person never finds peace. In this 3rd stage, you can't concentrate on Krishna at all. You chant Hare Krishna, like he says in the seminar, Krishna, and your mind is, oh, there's that person, I hate them, Krishna, Krishna, I'm trying to chant louder, but you can't. And the last stage, Nidha, I will destroy him. And the result is, I am never pleased, and you can't feel that Krishna exists. So how powerful that even in Shastra, it's really like analysing this quality of envy. And overall, he says the main reason is that we don't realise that Krishna is present in every living entity as a super soul. And this is the issue, because if we realise that, Krishna is the ability in man, chapter 7, that we shouldn't envy, because Krishna has given them that ability, and we all have different abilities. So Bhaktivedanta Manor makes a really nice point that if you want to love God, then you have to love his creation. And this envy is the most dangerous, as it is completely the opposite of love. And love and envy can't live together. So, if we want to love Krishna, we have to see that he is everywhere, he's within everyone. And this hating is totally contradictory. that was really like the point that he kept stressing was this: we have to see Krishna within everything. And why do we feel this envy? Does anyone know in the Shastra or just in general? Why do we feel this envy? Yeah. 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 Thanks, Nita Rasta. So I'll summarize the whole thing. That this, the root of the envy comes from envy of Krishna. Because we want to enjoy. He's the enjoyer, but we want to enjoy, and that's also why we're here in the material world. And we were discussing this actually in our Bhakti Shastri, that lust is the root of the 3 gates which lead to hell. 1621. Does anyone remember the 3 gates? Yeah. Lust, anger, and greed. So I think we discussed it that these. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but the lust, anger, and greed then leads to illusion, moha, which leads to pride, which then leads to matsara, which is the envy. So I think I mentioned before that this society fuels this. It's often called the fire. In society, there's consumerism and lots of things. So what's the solution? So Bhaktivedanta Swami gives the solution from Shastra, and then I'll just cover some other general points. So from the same 3rd canto, 29th chapter, verse 27, is where Lord Kapila Dev gives the 3 aspects that we can practice. And he gave a lot of stress to following the Vedic culture, the Varnashram, which a lot of lectures we've been listening to, like Prabhupada on Monday, he was discussing Varnashram, Shiti Shakti Devi Dasi on Sunday was discussing Varnashram. So it seems to keep coming up that we should be situated in this Varnashram. And I was thinking, this is not directly his point about it, and it's because if we're situated in that and we're happy in our duty, we're so fulfilled, we will be less envious of others. And that's one of the solutions. We have to understand our nature, how we can engage in this world in our nature, not only in our services, but in general, so that we're occupied and satisfied. So the first aspect from Srimad Bhagavatam is respect. In this Vedic culture, we respect everyone according to rules, and especially respect the elders, which I think is sometimes still prevalent in Indian culture. And the second was gifts and feeding others. So he was saying the basic and most enjoyment in this world is eating. And when we cook and we feed others before we feed ourselves, we feel so much love. You get happiness. That feeling of cooking for people, and you get the experience of love, and you get happier as you cook for somebody, and you don't eat until you serve them. So you place their hunger before yours and you respect them. So this is acting in a nice, gentle way. And the third way was to see everyone as friends, not your competitors. And when Prabhupada came to London, his disciples were saying good morning to everyone. And isn't it that we live in a society where we sometimes don't even know who our neighbours are? We don't. A lot of people here in this, like growing up here, sometimes you don't know who your neighbours, or even if you're on the tube in London, I remember on the way to work, people are so no one says hello. Okay, sometimes they do. There are some kind people, but this is a culture that we have here, and this, we should say good morning to people. This is Vaishnav culture. Be friendly to everyone, and in this way, we understand that God is present in everyone's heart. By being friendly to people. And I was thinking of some other ways that we can practice, and sort of work through this envy. And one of them I thought was really powerful is gratitude. Because if we see in our lives how much we have, then we won't be comparing so much and seeing where we lack things. We're often in the mindset of lack. So with the gratitude, so for example, I was like, there's people outside going on holiday now, things are opening up in the UK. I was like, really, after I stay at the manor and go on holiday. And then today when they opened the deities in Guru Puja, I was like, wow, I'm the luckiest person. at the manor. I get to see the deities every day and engaged in devotional service. I'm lucky that I've even been able to enter into this Dham. So yes, to appreciate every minute. And as they say, comparison is the thief of joy. And the second thing, Prabhupada always says, simple living, high thinking. So if we're in this mentality of simple living and high thinking, then we won't always be endeavoring too much to, have that pay rise all the time, or, live life in a certain way, because what's our goal? I think that was in one of the other morning talks as well. What's our goal? Self-realization, Krishna. So if we remember our goal when we do our other endeavors, we remember this principle of simple living and high thinking. Another one that we had in the morning class, he was saying that we should write about how we feel, we should journal. Because it helps analyze and come to the root of why we're envying. And it helps you work on that, because often I've done that and I can see that it's a pace personally from lack. It's because I don't have something that I'm feeling this envy. And is there any other tips that anyone else would think would be good for working through envy? Yeah. 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 So, yeah, that's true. Thank you. So just to repeat your point. So it's saying, like the point, be friends. So serve that person. I think Mother Vishaka was saying that, wasn't she, when we had that discussion? Serve the person. Stevie? Yeah, that's so nice. It's really nice. So, Steve, you were saying that to become friends with them, and sorry, not friends. That's what your point. So to see where you are in your life, and that we're all here as friends, or family, and we're all trying to get back to Godhead together. So we should be. That's really nice. Really friendly to each other and encouraging. Is there anything else? No. So, like they say, by uplifting others, we are uplifted as well. And there was some other personal example. So I think since coming and taking like Krishna consciousness like seriously and doing that, you do feel, because they say when you become more engaged in your devotional service, these material things like sort of fade away. I definitely think that the envy has gone down. When I was younger, a lot of being in the materialistic world, I think we all, you see other people have this, like I want that car, or I want this. But as you get older, it's like there's things, and as you mature in your Krishna consciousness as well, it's like these things don't matter so much. I think these things are sort of in our minds from a young age because we see other people having it, or we see it on TV, or these are the things that conditioning that we need to uncondition ourselves. And then in Shastra, there's really nice, I think we covered this in our Nectar Instruction class with Suchi Rani, the 4th canto's 8th chapter 34 verse. Narad Muni is talking to Dhruva Maharaj, and he's saying that every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate toward him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. That's a really nice principle to live by. And as we discussed with Mother Vishaka, the thoughtful prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, another amazing example. His father was so envious, and his father was always trying to kill him, but yet he was praying, may there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. So such a nice prayer. And in the purport, Prabhupada says that we should pray to Lord Nrsingadev to sit in our hearts, and we should pray, Bahe Nrsingo, Hare Nrsingo. Let Lord Nrsingadev sit in the core of my heart, killing all my bad propensities. Let my mind become clean so that I will peacefully, worship the Lord, and bring peace to the entire world. So it's really nice. And the last two parts, so that's envy, so we discussed that for a bit. I think it's such an important topic. There's a lot of seminars on this topic. And the next two parts in the verse, so who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. So that last part, you never entangled because it's akarma. And the part before that, Prabhupada says in the purport, a Krishna conscious person is above duality because he does not hesitate to act in any way for the satisfaction of Krishna, which I think I mentioned before, he's steady in success and failure. So just to summarize what we discussed, so I split the verse into around 4. We first discussed he is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, and we discussed the Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam principle, and the free from duality, what it means to be free from duality, and a Shastak example. Then this envy, we discussed the 4 stages and how envy fuels this material world in the age of envy, and this cause of the envy and some solutions, so some from Sastra and some personal reflections. So I just wanted to end on a letter that Prabhupada wrote actually from Bhaktivedanta Manor. He wrote to Chintamani in 1973. You ask how you can become free of envy simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya has said the heart will become cleansed of all dirty things accumulated in the heart. It's not that we have to endeavor separately to become rid of envy. In this age, the chanting of Hare Krishna is recommended as the only possible method to associate with Krishna. By offenseless chanting, you can associate with Krishna. So thank you very much for listening to me speak. Sorry if I've caused any offences or said anything incorrect. Is there any questions that anyone wants to ask? Steve? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So Stevie's asking the question that often in life, even if we don't want envy, it does come up, and that if we see a person that we're envious of, like how should we act? Should we give them gratitude so we, go up to them? So I think because one of the things is being friendly, so you might be friends. Yeah. Stay away. Yeah. So Stevie's saying that you might be friends with the person but they're not reciprocating, so how you deal with that. So you can appreciate them from afar, and I think often in life is, like when it's not about the results, sort of I would use that in that context, because people react in different ways, and you can give up to a certain point, but then from afar you can just appreciate them. If they're not reciprocating, there's nothing you can do on your end. You just pray to Krishna, I've tried, and because I know I've been in those situations as well. People don't reciprocate, and it can be hurtful. But you just have to pray within your heart and just wish them the best, because you've given your best. I don't know if anyone else has points in addition to that. Super, so Paramatma. Yeah. Yeah. It's true. So she's saying good point, Geeta, that we should remember that Paramatma is in there, is within them. Again, the point, Krishna is within the heart of everyone. that's stressed in Srimad Bhagavatam in that section. Yeah. 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 No, I think 100%. Yeah, it takes practice because we're bringing our material conditioning into our spiritual life. We might be used to. We might be used to having that mentality or that mindset. But yeah, it will get there, and this chanting as well eventually, Yeah, when you progress in your Krishna consciousness, you will let go of these things. I know there's definitely at times when I went to, to retreat, and when I came back, I literally was like so blissful. I was not feeling any envy or any anything. I was just feeling blissful for a while. So I think this, just keep going in your Krishna consciousness, and eventually these layers will be shed. Yeah. I don't know too much about it. The greed, so you mean this diagram? So the greed is, let me get the notes here, I've got it here. Yeah, the greed, lust and anger. So, she discussed that lust is never satisfied, right? It's a thing that burns forever. And this leads to greed, because you want more and more, and you want more enjoyment. And when you can't satisfy this, you become angry. So then you're in illusion. And in this illusion, this moha leads to pride, because we're more on the bodily platform then as well. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Mm. 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 Yeah. Mm. 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 Nithwasa? Mm. It's by the chanting, purifying, and yeah, purifying that. And I think we discussed, because it's all rooted in lust, right? It all starts from lust. So we discussed in this Bhakti Rashi that we have to curb this lust. And this lust is just the need to enjoy, we want to enjoy things. So if we relate our activities to Krishna and think of yourself as the servant of Krishna, and we get in this mood of serving and as a servant, then even with non-devotees, it brings a different mood about it. It curtails our enjoying mentality. I know it's difficult, but these are some things, when you wake up in the morning saying that I'm a servant of Krishna and being in this mood of service was one thing that she mentioned. And as we go along and we get to Anartha Nivritti, and these things are coming out as we progress in our bhakti. Nitya, do you want to say? We're charcoal. Yeah. Envy is the only thing you cannot use in Krishna's service. Yeah, it's an impediment. Yeah. So Nityarasa gave a really nice analogy that it's like charcoal, and you keep trying to wash it, but you can't make it go white. So with Krishna consciousness, you can ignite it, it's like you're saying, into fire. That's really beautiful. I like that. Yeah. Mm. 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 Yeah. So you see, you made a nice point about greed, yeah. And how dangerous it is. It's very true. Um, mm. Mm. Well, yeah. Yeah, illusion. We don't have the principle in society of Ishavasi Amidam Sarvam. It's my favourite. Because we don't. We think we can have more and more, enjoy this consumerism, capitalism. It's crazy when you think about it, but yeah, the whole world is sort of like that. So we have to come and carry on Prabhupada's mission and propagate the Krishna consciousness and the simple living and high thinking. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Oh yeah.